Dragons are awesome. There's something about these mythical creatures that just commands respect from me. I mean, damn, look at this unstoppable beast. You mean to tell me that you would run up to this thing and basically swing a metal toothpick at it and expect to kill it? Good luck with that. But what a lot of people don't know is that dragons are caring and kind creatures that really care about life and the world. Well, at least this one does. Panzer Dragoon is a rail shooter series about bioengineered dragons and their riders thrust into a world of constant war and control over the technology of a long-dead civilization, flying around and blowing away everything in your path, saving the world and looking as cool as shit doing so. Over the last few weeks, I've really fallen into this Dragon Rider rabbit hole, ever since I played Panzer Dragoon Orta, a game from my childhood and starting point to the series. It made me want to check to see if the original still holds up, and if Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon Orta is as good as I remember, or am I blinded by nostalgia? And before people leave a comment about why I'm only playing the first and fourth game, it's because the second and third game are trapped on the Sega Saturn, which might not be that hard to get a hold of, but the games themselves are fucking expensive. I guess I could just emulate it though, so if you want to see those games, leave a like and subscribe, because you see this? We can do better. As stated earlier, I've always enjoyed the Dragon Rider aesthetic, especially from games like, again, Panzer Dragoon, to Drakengard, and classics like Spyro the Dragon. Personally, Year of the Dragon was the best one, and if you disagree, that's your fucking problem, flying around and absolutely demolishing everything in your path, or during a moment of respite and gliding around and taking in the sights. Transitions from calm, whimsical moments to tense dogfighting is the perfect balance. Like in Stage 4 when you're flying through the underground ruins is the best example of this. You start off smoothly, then as the level progresses, you're diving, bobbing and weaving through corridors while getting shot at. You really need to make the most of your radar and camera since enemies and their shots can literally come from any direction. So cut off the podcast, this game demands your attention. I love that you have two ways of attacking using the rider's gun and the dragon's homing shot, and knowing when to use them is essential, not just for survival, but getting that sweet, sweet high score. When I started playing this game, my go-to would just be using the dragon's homing shot, but in certain areas it would just lead to me taking severe damage or even dying, because it's powerful, but slow. Faster enemies would rush me and I would have little to no time to react, so the best way to deal with them is to pull out the blicky.
Wait, I started blasting. Bang! No, I don't see so good, so I missed.
I really admire the games that require the player to use every tool in their arsenal to succeed. This game is one of them, and keep this in mind for later. One thing I wish for the original Panzer Dragoon and even the remake is that they gave a little more explanation on what's going on in the story. Most of what I learned about the first game came from the fourth game, Orta. So I guess I'll leave that for the massive story section of this video. Since this game gives you so little information, it would be difficult to talk about the first game without going into the lore. Trust me, it'll flow so much better, so we'll leave that for now. After finishing this game, I feel it ended as soon as it got started. I understand that arcade games like this are short, and to make up for this, the difficulty is slightly increased, but I literally finished this game in under an hour with only 6 stages in the game, and I just stood there like, oh shit, game's over. Wow, that was fast. But strangely in a good way, it left me wanting more. I really wish this game was longer. It's a great game to put down and come back to later, but it was so good that I felt empty after playing it. Something I really enjoyed about this game is its beautiful art style. This game may be short, but holy shit does it have style. Making this video really did make me appreciate the care and effort that went into these older games, not Parappa the Rapper. As much as I adore this game, I strongly recommend that you pick it up on sale. I don't think it's really worth the $25 asking price. Since explained earlier, it's so short you can complete it in less than an hour. And I find it funny that that's my biggest gripe about the game, that the price is a little too high for so little content. If it was like $10, $15-ish, I wouldn't have an issue, but overall, I got this game for $2 on the Nintendo eShop. Panzer Dragoon is a great game that's short, sweet, and to the point. I have some gripes with it, but it's definitely worth your time. I just hope and pray that Sega re-releases or remaster the other 2 games, so I don't have to figure out how to use a fucking Sega Saturn emulator. Next up is Panzer Dragoon Orta, the fourth and last entry to the Panzer Dragoon series, not counting the mobile games. I'm going to start off this section by saying this game is hard as for new players. Replaying this game for the first time in over 15 years was a painful experience. So much that I decided to scrap the footage from my first playthrough completely. I died that much. Over 2 hours of me getting curb stomped into oblivion. Especially if you don't know what you're doing, / forgot about the tutorial in the main menu. Like I did. I can be a little forgetful at times. But if you watching this decide to play this game, don't be an idiot like me and please play the tutorial because
that ass whooping was punishment enough.
Something that I discovered about this game is that you don't recover health between stages. So for example, if you don't play well and get your ass beat by a boss, you can start the next stage at a disadvantage. Even though the dragon's berserk skills can heal you, it still won't save you, and adds to the painful experience mentioned earlier. The footage that you're watching is from my third playthrough. In my 25 years of life, I've never been disrespected by a video game so badly that after completing it, I immediately decided to play the game 2 more times because I knew I could do better, and I did. This game is way more mechanically complex than it lets on, like how the first game requires you to use everything in your arsenal, from the radar and proper camera turns. If you're not paying attention or move the camera too slow, you're as good as dead. This game does not play with you. Every form, every berserk skill for those 3 forms, the normal shot, the homing shot, the heavy shot, the rapid shot, so much shots that you'll be mistaken for an alcoholic. Drink responsibly. If you want to beat this game, it demands your full attention. But not like the first game, no. Crank that shit to 20. Also, the speed up and slowing down mechanic is a neat idea that you're required to get the hang of. There are bosses you cannot defeat without it. Plus, you feel like a badass dragon rider. Speeding up, pulling back, and dodging incoming attacks. Like in stages 3, 5, 8, and the final boss to name a few. A new feature added to this game is the dragon wing forms. Base wing, heavy wing, and light wing. The heavy wing has the strongest homing shot in the game, and shoots the farthest of all forms. But a drawback to how powerful it is, you can't lock onto a lot of enemies, and your movement is extremely limited. So you can forget about dodging or boosting, because it's not gonna happen. Heavy Wing's berserk skill is a focused laser beam that melts bosses and enemies, and the best time to use this skill is when you're flying in a straight line, or when the boss is vulnerable and you're going in for the kill. The base wing is essentially the dragon from the first game, but with some upgrades. As you evolve, the dragon can target more and more enemies with its homing attack. It has standard range and damage, and has a boost bar of 2, making this wing the more well-rounded of the 3. Good to go for most encounters, with the berserk skill that fires a flurry of homing shots to nearby targets. The light wing has the best attack in the game for dealing with smaller enemies and projectiles. Rapid fire, but it's weak as shit. But your fingers won't suffer in the process from mashing, so take a break and relax. Maybe not. Light wing has the fastest movement in the game. With a boost bar of 3, you'll be zipping around all over the place, with a berserk skill that sends little dragon clones, like in the 2006 classic game The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning. I feel Panzer Dragoon Orta is the hardest game that I've played for this channel. For my first playthrough, I died so many times, and part of it was my fault for not playing the tutorial, but as punishing as this game was, I can't help but recommend it. This game had my full focus for weeks, forced me to learn its mechanics, and beat me down when I did it, and I'm grateful for that. Even after finishing this game, I'm still not done unlocking everything. And look, this game has bonus levels. I haven't even scratched the surface. So I'll be returning to this game to cover the bonus content sometime soon. So if you take away anything from this video, do not sleep on this game, please. It is worth the punishment. With the gameplay out of the way, I guess it's time to talk about the story. So spoilers for a 28 and 20-year-old game, if you honestly care that much. The story of Panzer Dragoon starts off with the creation of bioweapons, and the strongest ones were known as dragons, with the destructive capability to rival that of most weapons, and even the ability to adapt and evolve. They were used in the war between nations. This, and combined with the other bioweapons that ran amok, caused the fall of the first civilization, and the destruction of the environment. Humanity was forced back into the Dark Ages, and the dragons disappeared into legend since it had been centuries since their last appearance. The game starts off with an explanation that it has been thousands of years since the fall of the human civilization, and the remaining humans are scrambling to survive, which leads to people doing what people do best, kill each other, because why not? Everyone's so panicked and worried about their own survival, and a dark dragon is causing problems for everyone, blowing shit up and creating orphans in the process. Cutting to our protagonist Kyle Fluge, tasked with hunting bioweapons, until him and his unit see a deployed battleship and get attacked by these weird sand bioweapons. While pursuing it, Kyle and his mount end up in an underground ruin, triggering off one of the sentinels to attack them. And Kyle just leaves his lizard thing to get smashed. And he just fucking takes off and watches it die. What an asshole. After being cornered, the ceiling blows off. A blue dragon by the name of Logi flies into the ruin, apparently being chased by the dark dragon. Logi and the black dragon fight, and the rider of Logi gets a big decoration through his chest. Put some Neosporin on that, you'll walk it off in no time. The dark dragon takes off, and the rider gives Kyle a telepathic warning to stop the dark dragon at all costs before he gets to the tower, pissing out of his chest before falling over dead. Then Kyle and Logi fly off to hopefully stop the dark dragon. After spending the game committing war crimes, at the end the black dragon makes it to the tower and evolves into a dragon mare, which the term means distorted dragon. Upon killing it, Logi uses her power to send Kyle away and the tower is destroyed, and the game ends. A few hundred years after the first game, the Empire discovers a drone named Abad. Drones being artificial people created to serve humans before the civilization was destroyed, and with Abad's help, the Imperials are successful in creating their own dragon mares. You play as Orta, a half-human drone who's been prisoner since birth, being held captive and used to fight until she's saved by Logi, the dragon from the first game. And after destroying the first level's boss, Abad saves her from the dragon mares and tells her that she's going to save the world from itself, which leads into a battle with the Imperials and their newly created dragon mares for the fate of the world. Some of the main themes of this game are legacy, creation, and destruction, and finding a purpose in life. The drone Abad was created to be a servant for the humans of the dead civilization, and when they had all died off, he spent thousands of years alone and no purpose in life. Since he's an artificial being and can't reproduce and pass on his genes, he wakes up on some imperfect cell shit and decides to kill Orta and absorb her so he can gain her human genes to be able to produce heirs to take the place of humans as the dominant species.
Depresio.
Nostum vita adia storate. Nostra zem dominus.
And on a side note, Abad's desires are reflected in his boss battle, which I think is a really neat touch, because it looks like he's pregnant. And even in the final boss where his dragon is evolving, almost looks like a female egg in a sperm cell in the final phase. I honestly feel weird calling him a him, since he has both male and female traits. Meanwhile, Orta on the other hand is alone in the world with no family or anyone that cares about her. She could have easily fallen into Abad's footsteps upon meeting Mobo and the people from his village and the dragon Logi that saved her life, when later on she learns from her mother in a pre-recorded message that life is worth living and protecting. And it's shown right after you defeat the stage 5 boss, and Abad kills it and its children. She feels empathy after learning it was just trying to protect its family, while Abad only sees it as something in the way of his mission, not caring that it's a living being. And I just love the duality of Orta's and Abad's situation. They both come from a background of being drones created to be weapons of war by the Imperials, and not being treated like people, but more like living property of the military. While Abad only cares about his personal goals since he spends his entire existence being shunned, hated, and feared for what he is, you almost can't help but feel sympathetic towards him. It's all he's ever known. It's just loneliness and being treated like a freak. Orta comes to the realization that the world and life around her is worth living and protecting, even though her and Logi have probably killed millions of soldiers and mutant animals. But let's hush up on those details. And at the end of the game, she fully embraces these ideals when the dragon of legend, Logi, dies, but leaves behind a child. Mind you that dragons are bioweapons in this world, and aren't supposed to be able to reproduce. But Logi finds a way. She finds a way to live. And I feel that's probably why she saved Orta in the first place. Almost like she knew her time was coming to an end and needed someone to take care of her kid. Like, that's kind of fucked up, like free childcare, I guess. And now Orta has a new purpose in life, so the legend of the dragons can live on. I really vibe with this story, especially the finding your purpose bit. After spending years feeling like I was going nowhere in life, I really had to take a step back with myself and realize that not everything that happens in my life is a waste of time. And sometimes we need to find the things that give our life meaning. Not everything is going to be spelled out for us. We all get sidetracked, shit happens, but I love the notion that I'm responsible for what I do in my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way.